Yeah, good one. I really like this. I should change it.
Okay, so let's start with a definition of what dashboards actually are, because often you go to clients or different users and they have a very different idea to what a dashboard is than what we might think it is. So Stephen Fuse defines a dashboard as a visual display of the most important information needed to achieve one or more objectives, consolidated and arranged on a single screen so the information can be monitored at a glance. So the three key points I'd pull out of that is that it's just the key information, a single screen, and monitored at a glance. So the temptation is always to try and put too much on one screen. And you can see, the image behind the airplane cockpit. That dashboard, you've got a split second to make a decision. Whether you need to spot threats or opportunities in your business, like when you're flying a plane, you don't have time to really look at the fine detail. So when in the very initial design stages of dashboards, we need to get from your user what the key information is that's going to enable them to make decisions or spot threats, spot opportunities. And that being on a single screen can definitely help being able to see everything and monitor things at a glance. And part of monitoring at a glance is not just the information that's put on there, but also the way you display it, how light you can make the cognitive load through clever use of design, the structure, the colours, etc. So with what I found in my first year of designing dashboards is there's some easy things to slip up on. So one of the features of a dashboard is often that the data is being refreshed all the time. So it might be on a daily basis, new data is coming in, and when you initially design the dashboard, you make certain assumptions about what the data is going to look like going forward, and you might get caught out on that. So if the new data that comes in is not exactly what you're expecting, if it's much bigger ranges, if there's different number of categories, for example, then that could really muck up your design, make things too squashed, make things look a bit strange. For example, with a pie chart which is showing 100% because you're only getting one category come through on it. Null values which you weren't expecting could give formulas which come up with null results. And the screen size, if you're expecting a certain number of categories, for example, a certain number of respondents, and that comes up too many, then in Tableau that could, depending how you've set the window, that could be squashed too much, or that could mean that scroll bars appear on your page where you don't want them. So back to thinking about the initially specifying your design, and the audience is a key part to think of. Obviously, a dashboard is a very user-centered design that we're going for, and your audience may vary on their technical level. So whether they're more of an analyst, or who has a bit more time to explore and to understand some more complex charts, or on the other end of the scale could be the MD who really wants to look at this for a quick snapshot and then move on quickly, and maybe hasn't had the same technical background and will only take on board some of the simpler, really clear visualizations. the frequency of which the dashboard is updated and the frequency which it's used should also determine your design choices. So if this is something that's looked into a bit more depth on a weekly or monthly basis, it'd be very different to one that you're checking a couple of times a day. You put it in terms of a duration in which people have to look at it. Some dashboards people could spend a few minutes really delving into a bit further, and others, it's going to be a few seconds on very regular intervals. So that's some broad design principles. But in Tableau, there's specific tools which help with the dashboard design. So we're going to have a little practice of those today. So I'm going to show you how to insert sheets, how to use containers, and how to set the screen optimally for different devices. Okay, so let's open a new. So Tableau works in creating sheets which you can then drop into a dashboard. So you see the sheets are in the pane on the left here, and you have the option to drop in floating or tiled sheets, and it really depends on what you want to do, which is best. Tiled, it's very fast to create things with using tiles, which will fill the space on the screen. But if you want to get perfect positions, exactly what you want, especially with using client logos and using some white spaces, maybe a bit smarter than floating might actually be a better way to go. So we'll look at that a bit later, but first we'll go through a few things on tiling. So one of the best ways to arrange your tiles is using containers. So we have horizontal and vertical containers. If we just let's put on a couple of horizontal containers, and to make it a bit clearer where they are, I'm going to format them. And you see when you add containers, you get this grey highlight exactly where it's going to go. So here you can see I'm trying to drop one on the top part of the screen. If I was actually dropping inside this container, the whole container would be highlighted. Okay, so we've got two horizontal containers, and next we can drop a couple of sheets into those. So drop our days to order, MYS deliveries, and we could add as many as we want, and you can see it'll evenly split up the sheet into however many, split that container up evenly, so we've got 3 sheets in there, 4 sheets in there, the same width. And when we drop these sheets in, we have the option to fit them standard, which is the size you created them in the sheet, fit the width, which that one won't make a difference showing this one, fit the width, which will make sure the bars that you don't have to scroll horizontally, so it'll fit it across the width, and fit the height. Or we could just fit entire view, Fitting to the entire view is often what I do use when I've created dashboards in the past, but it does depend, knowing in this example how many subcategories are going to be in your data set. If next month you had 15 subcategories, the bars would be too squashed. So you'd either have the choice of having a scroll bar, or maybe just showing the top 10. Oh, in fact, that's what this chart I've done here, the 10 best subcategories in terms of data to deliver. If we wanted to reorganize these in terms of how wide they are, you can drag the dividers across. Which is quite tricky to master because they don't always seem to move exactly which bits you want. It's very tricky, isn't it? I think it's the one on the right-hand side when you're doing it horizontally that you have to think about. So how do we edit these once they're in? Because often you put a container and it's very hard to see on the screen where this container is if you wanted to format it or change it around. If we click on the layout tab here, we can see the objects, how they're arranged as a kind of branch, and they branch off each other. And as you click these, it actually highlights on the screen which bits we're looking at. So here we've got my pink horizontal container, we've got my green horizontal container, and the sheets that are inside that container directly underneath it in this branch. And if we right click this, we can see some of the options. We've got a fixed width, so that's because I dragged them and edited them manually. If we wanted to remove that, we could untick it. And you see they've gone back to being evenly spread across that container. So the same principles apply to vertical containers. You can drop them in there. And you can have a container inside a container. So if we drop one in here, a vertical container. Now I've run out of sheets now, but I can show you with text. So you can also drop image and text into a dashboard. Drop some text in here. And you see this. Oh, it's doing that thing where it tries to make two, where it gives a random blank at the bottom.
Okay. That's because on the other ones, you fit entire view, whereas text boxes you can't. So if you want to actually have something underneath there, you put a blank in,
yeah,
and that will get rid of that grayed out space.
Yeah. So you see now we've got a vertical container sitting inside our horizontal container. And it can go on and on, but most designs wouldn't get more complicated than that. If you've got more complicated than that, then you've probably lost your way a little bit in where you want to go, to be honest.
I have a very sort of basic container question. It's something I've not quite understood. So your pink container and your green container,
yeah,
they're on top of each other, but they're horizontal containers.
Yes.
I thought from the icon for horizontal containers, they should go side by side. If you've got one on top of the other, shouldn't they be vertical containers?
No.
They're two different containers.
Yeah. So by default, when you open a dashboard, there's already a container there.
Right, okay.
And and that one you can, the tiled one, you can like put in anything either side by side or down. Whereas, so what the horizontal and vertical refers to is when you put a sheet in, You can either have them horizontally or vertically.
Oh, right. So the horizontal vertical talks about
What happens within it?
the things that you put inside it, not where. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cheers.
So if you just missed that, Gwilym's question was that it looks like I'm using the containers vertically because I've got one above the other. But the behavior, whether it's horizontal or vertical, is actually what happens inside the container rather than how the containers interact with each other.
That explains so many of my dashboard problems.
So
I had the same thing,
I
but
just
that makes
completely
so much more
misunderstood.
sense.
a good way to demonstrate this actually is if I use a floating container, then you can see it really clearly. So if I drop a floating horizontal container here, and I'll drop a vertical floating. So now I need to go back on tiled and I'll drop some in, you see. So I don't have, so place.
You then change it if you want to put something underneath. On that one, yeah. So
Yeah, so it won't let me.
inside,
It won't let me put anything underneath because this one's horizontal.
Right. Okay. Although when you just had the one sheet in, it did let you.
It did let me. Yeah, it didn't seem to mind. On
But
this
once
one.
there's at least two sheets inside a container, the horizontal vertical thing is about the orientation of the multiple sheets of it.
What
Yeah.
happens if you've got a horizontal one and then you put it in, so, because you know when you could do it on any corner, what happens if you do it the other way? You know what I mean? So like,
So-
you've got the two next to
Automatically
each
switches
other,
to
but
it.
when you first had it in, you could put it underneath it. What happens if you put it underneath it instead of next to it?
Actually, so this one I was trying to use as a vertical, but if I put one in and I put the next one there, then it's decided.
Then does it switch it to
Then it's
horizontal?
decided that it's a horizontal.
Oh, right, okay. So really it doesn't really matter what type of container.
That's with
Yeah, it's
floating.
kind of
I'm not sure if it's the same if we did a tiled one.
I
So
think that sometimes when I fix it,
if
you
we
put
try,
it out the container,
Right.
if we go
not
back,
inside. If you put in the not
so on this
regularly.
pink
But
one,
it doesn't happen all the time. I don't know why.
finish
Sometimes
five.
it happens.
Oh yeah, it does
Yeah,
let
they
you.
put it out.
But then
It does let us
Now
use
if I
it.
put something to the right.
look at the layout of that,
Yeah. Like two different containers.
because it is, yeah, it's two different containers. I'll actually switch it to a vertical, haven't I? It's the top one there.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, it does-
yeah. So actually, if you change your mind once you've dragged on a container, horizontal, vertical, it doesn't matter.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I think that in reality
So
it
now-
created a new container inside your
Sure.
vertical, no?
Actually, if you know, click it.
Mm,
It's just double change together. So if you-
If you get a layer, yeah, if you click
Because
on
we
sheet
created
and
only
then
two,
double
and now we
click,
have
and it shows you which
vertical,
container it's in.
horizontal, vertical.
So you see that.
The
Created
crazy.
an horizontal,
I like that. That's
and
right.
the vertical
so
one is inside
if you wanna
horizontal
know
container.
If you've
Horizontal,
lost
vertical.
track of where your sheets are, click on a sheet, and then the grey box appears around it.
It's very confusing, because
Oh,
I-
Double click on the
Tableau,
top, and it will
it's
highlight
look.
the container that's in.
Then
If you double click that container, it will show you the
Yeah.
container that container's in.
Tableau,
Yeah.
Which can be a lot easier than looking through this branches of all the objects, which can get very confusing if you get quite a few sheets in there.
I find the grey highlights when you hover over like your best friend in terms of trying to figure out how it's going to arrange on the screen.
Oh yeah, where it's going to drop.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So with any containers you drop in, you have the option to format them as well. You right click, format container, and you can do shading, and you can do a border, which when you're doing floating, sometimes that can be useful to use to break up a page.
Alaska in the map. Put in Alaska in the
Oh,
map,
yeah.
it's great,
Oh, yeah.
because then you
As
put
a
the border.
separate part.
Yeah.
Oh, is that how you did it? Floated Alaska separately?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Very clever. Like that.
Okay, so what are my other tools that I was talking about? Shared sheet, use the containers. Oh, and the device preview. So we're going to cover this in a bit more detail later in the week for mobile.
It's
Right.
later
Actually,
today.
Later today
1 p.m.
at 1 p.m. we're going to do a mobile special.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I'll just show you how this works. So we've got this is new in version 10 of Tableau. So you click device preview. You can see how this is going to look on different devices. You scroll through, see on phone. If we left this dashboard as is, it's going to miss a lot of the data up there. So we can actually rearrange the sheet, the tiles, and then save that as a view. So it's not going to work great in our set of containers, but let's drop in a vertical container. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time arranging them, I just want to show you the function. So get them where you want them on the page, and then we add this new preview. We could fit all, so it all fits on the sheet, and then maybe get rid of these containers we started with to make some space. And then we've still kept our old view as the default, and we've got a new phone device dashboard really, and you can add one feed for all different devices you want. So if somebody's logged into Tableau server and they open your dashboard, they will see it in the format you've decided, the layout you've decided is best for them to see it. I think you could even remove some of the sheets. So you're looking at a dashboard on a desktop view, you could fit a lot more metrics, a lot more sheets than you could really on a mobile. Or maybe you want to use the same login as if they're logging in the same sheet and they can see the same.
And just a question, when you save it to
stats.
Tableau Public, will it create two links, a mobile link and another?
This is only this device preview for Tableau Public. It's for Tableau Server and Tableau Online.
Okay.
So when you're using it securely for clients, yeah, for internal users. Okay, so go back to my. So another thing to think about when making dashboards is not how much alcohol you need to drink to get you through the painful process, but is how to save space. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at something at a glance and it's on one screen, then saving space is going to be one of your big issues. So you've already gone through and decided which metrics are important. You've put pressure on your user to really be ruthless and cut out some of the less important metrics. And you've still got a lot of things to fit on your page. So some of the things we can do to combat that are we can combine charts. So that can mean using the most direct measure. So for example, if you're interested in how much profit there are per customers, then you should plot a chart showing profit per customer, not plot two charts, one showing profit and another showing how many customers. It seems obvious, but it's an easy mistake to make to start doing separate charts for the things you're interested in when you could plot one chart and show those things together. And potentially have any extra information you need as a tooltip, which isn't the key information you need at a glance, but is something that you'd be interested in if you spotted an opportunity or problem. You could hover in there. So another thing you could do is use parameters cleverly. So parameters allow you to make selections which affects what shows up on the screen. So a filter could just filter the rows of data which are going into your sheets. But with parameters, you can do some cleverer things, such as determine how the data is aggregated. So, for example, show a year-to-date view, show performance over the last month compared to the same month last year, show performance compared to your best competitors. So you can have these options there to update the sheets on your page rather than having several sheets, so you can save space that way. You could even use parameters to completely change the metrics you're showing, but keep the formats of the charts the same. So, for example, if you had a dashboard showing profit, you could have a parameter to select the metric and show sales, show revenue, show discounts. So actually save a lot of space by letting the user choose the metric and completely change the dashboard. And within Tableau Server and Tableau Online, users can select their preferred view. That will kind of save a landing point for them for when they log in. So even if you have different users who would want to use different default settings, they can set that up when they log in. Another tactic of mine is to remove as much chart junk as possible to save space. So let's go back to dashboard here, so it's quite difficult to see the chart, so need to think about whether we need the titles, whether we need the labels on the axes, whether we need the axes at all. So if we fit this one to the view, so we can get some more space for the chart by getting rid of the axis title, and if the actual title of the sheet explains what's being measured, then we potentially don't need to duplicate that information in the axis. The level of detail that's displayed can also cause too much space to be taken up. So here we've got percentages displayed to 2 decimal places. Perhaps that's too much information. Perhaps the user doesn't need to know at a glance what the percentages are at all. They just need to see the kind of trend, see the highest and the lowest and what's happening in between. So we could take these off take them off the label and just leave them on the tooltip, so that if users are really interested, they can just have a hover and see.
And also in this case, I think that thinking about design, for instance, if you sort, you make it easier for the person to see the information at a glance in this case.
Yes, although the danger with sorting, well, sorting can help you see what's going on in some cases, but it depends on the other charts on that sheet. So you might want to have the same order across the page of your categories. And actually the categories in this sheet are days to order. So what's the difference between the shipping date and the order date? So for that, I decided it's more appropriate to show, to keep those in order rather than order by the percentage. So another way is to save space, well, and make it more user-friendly really, is to have the correct level of detail. I'm not talking about level of detail calculations here, but in terms of how you display metrics. So having a percentage to 2 decimal places, in this case, I'd say it's not needed to know, just to know how many days it's taken to ship an item. We're probably happy with just with no decimal places. So we can format the count of the order ID, and we can choose to format it in the axis or the pane. So to change how it shows up in the tooltip, we have to do that in the pane. And we can change that to a percentage without any decimal places. And if you wanted to further refine your tooltips, make it clearer for the user, you can click on tooltips and rearrange the text that appears and the different fields that you want to drop in. So, what orders took? So you can make it really clear for the users rather than just using the default tooltip settings. Taking that further, you could format it in terms of having a header, having different font sizes in there.
Sure, you can also change the tick marks on the axis. So you may not necessarily need so many.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so to reduce the chart jump, perhaps you don't need every 5% on this chart. So it does, Tableau will reduce the tick marks to actually fit it inside the window. So if we stretch it out here, it's gone to every 2% because it's on auto. Whereas if we stretched it here, it wouldn't be able to fit in every 2%, so it's every 5%. But we can edit the axis and fix the tick marks. So if we want to put it every 20%, we can fix to every 0.2 units. Now the problem with that is, as the data updates, say this was a dashboard which is updated on a daily basis, then using fixed axes isn't always appropriate.
Does that fix the axes as well as the tick
marks?
marks?
Oh, no, that just fixed tick marks.
Oh, okay.
So if you wanted to fix the axes, that's on the general pane. We can fix the start and the end. But that comes back to, so if we did fix the end at 30%, then next month the biggest bar was 40%, then that's going to be off the chart, but we won't know it's off the chart. So the user will just look like it's at 30%, and they wouldn't see it until they hover. Actually, we've made a mistake there, and it's not fitting on. So if it's updating and you're not completely sure how high it's going to go, then it's best to use the automatic axes. Come back to that tools, tooltips, actions. So if we don't even want to use space to put in parameters on our dashboard, then we could use some of the sheets to filter the other sheets in the view. So let me give it. So here we've got the 10 worst subcategories for delivery. And if we wanted to use this chart to filter the other charts in the view, then we can add a dashboard action. So you get dashboard at the top, actions, add action, and then we have a choice to filter, highlight, or URL. So in this case, we're going to go for filter, and we choose our source sheet, which is going to be these 10 worst subcategories at the top of the dashboard there. And we want that to affect the target sheets. So that's the remaining 3 sheets on the dashboard. We can choose how that action runs.
Isn't the target sheets 10 best subcats is in the targets, right?
Oh, I meant to untick 10 worst, yeah. Tick 10 worst are the other 3. Then we can run the action hover, select, or menu. So select and menu are probably the most appropriate for a corporate setting. Hover, happening automatically just when you're moving the mouse around is very disorientating, really. So if we go for select, we also get to choose if we're not on the filter, we click off again, what will happen to the target sheets, whether that will show everything, show nothing. So we're going to leave that as show all values. And then we don't have to move across every field in that sheet to filter. We can choose specific fields. So I'm just going to choose subcategory. So if there was anything else that had been filtered out in this view, so for example, if it was just showing subcategories within a particular country, then that doesn't matter. It's only subcategory that's going to be used to filter the other sheets. And you can add as many filters as you want. So you could have 2 or 3 fields in there if you needed. Okay, and now when we click, that will update the other sheets in the dashboard. So we can see how many days to order. It's only 7, 6, 4, 2, and 0 for labels. This for phones have the spread from 0 to 6, but missing 7, and so on.
I've got a question there. When you selected phones and it came up with days to order, it went from 0 to 6 and missed out 7. Yeah. But I think when it was labels,
yeah, it had some blank ones.
Yeah. Why? So when labels, why is it that phones there was nothing in 7 and 7 just dropped off the chart, but in labels it's got the 5, 3, and 1 on the axis and comes up with 3 nulls?
Is it because the numbers just have to be continuous?
Yeah.
So it's like 1, 2, 3, 7 is just the maximum, so it's...
Well, it's discrete, but I don't know if we've got the show empty columns. I think we haven't said to show the empty rows, but maybe it's because this is a level of detail calculate. Oh no, it's a bin. Oh, I think it's because it's a bin.
Okay.
Ship. That it doesn't. When you have a bin, it doesn't let you have empty rows.
Right.
No, that's the default setting, I guess. Okay. So that's space saving. Tune in later for a bit more parameters.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
At 9:30.
Tomorrow at 9:30. We have some
Yes.
more parameters. Learn how to use that to optimize your dashboards. So finally, I'd like to talk about testing and reviewing your dashboard at the end. So a good practice is to take your dashboard back to the user and ask them, let them test the dashboard. It could be with some dummy data, could be with some real data, and ask them questions to work out how well it's working. So are the groupings of the information obvious? So there's probably going to be a lot of information on the page, and you're going to have to use containers, dividers, white spaces, colors to group that information together. And you being close to the project might not realize how obvious or not obvious it is to the user, how well it's grouped together. So are the groupings of information obvious? Is there enough information on the page to spot threats and opportunities, or to take action, or to decide whether you need to take action? Is the level of information appropriate? Is there too much information, too little information? Is the level of detail appropriate as well? And can you spot key items? So are the key items in the right place on the page where you're going to see them straight away? So usually that would be in the top left of a page, top left of a dashboard, where the user's going to look straight away when they log in. Is that where the most important information is? And another important point to consider is there sufficient context? So within a chart, come back to our dashboard. So for example, this chart, the 10 worst subcategories for delivery, so we've got the average days to ship. How do you know if that 4.2 days for machines is good or bad? We'll have to decide on some context which to show that. So we could be showing that compared to a KPI that we've decided that we want to keep the average at less than 3 days. It could be to do with the previous year's performance, or to do with the company average. So I'm not going to go into how to add these in now, but that could be with using the analytics pane to add in a constant line, which could be either set manually or automatically using a formula. There could even be a parameter to change the context that we're showing in terms of these benchmarks.
You could potentially use some of the things Gwilym was saying yesterday about groups and sets to create a in-out where you look at the worst delivery average in all the other categories, couldn't you? So you could contextualize it against the rest of your products.
Yeah, I think, well, from the work that I've done before with clients, say, more looking at the, say you look at the global average delivery time, and then use that as a benchmark there. So one way is to use this constant line. Another way could be to actually plot your benchmark value as a separate mark on the chart, so a separate bar or a separate line on a line chart, and then you can compare what's going on. Great. So that's it for today. Quite a quick overview. Any questions on the chat or in the room about dashboard design?
Favourite feature?
Favorite feature. I think using clever parameters is my favorite feature to make one dashboard suitable for a lot of people and for a lot of purposes. Keep it all in one sheet. That's what I like to do. We'll keep it all in one dashboard.
Do you have a preferred size, or do you say size just depends on what client wants?
Yeah, I mean, in my previous job, I had to do almost everything on A4, landscape A4, because they were interested in exporting it to PDF and printing it. So they draw the line between dashboard and reporting somewhere, but that's one of the annoying things I found is if you're making several dashboards and having to put logos on them, or to put the branding on. And if you used images, which is an icon. If we use icons, we can put this floating. So if we wanted to put this on several dashboards, and then this changed, then you could go through 20 dashboards and change it. So a tactic I came up with that is actually creating a sheet and using the image as a mark on the sheet, and then you can update that one mark and change.
Can you show how to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, so you make it into a worksheet rather than just an image?
You make the
It's
image
basically
the shape.
Oh yeah, make it as a shape. Yeah.
I think it's just like doing a scatter diagram.
Do you even need two?
Yeah, you can just do like two.
I just need one.
Just, and then put that on detail. And take the other one off, just a video, and then go to shape. Shape. And then make your fields discrete. And then put it on shape.
Put that on shape.
Yeah. And now you can double click it. Now you can change the shape.
Oh,
Yeah, and then assign it an image.
yeah.
Do you guys know how to add images onto
Yeah.
the?
Yeah.
You have to actually assign them.
Oh, yeah. It's very strange.
I always forget to do
Yeah, I always do that.
shape. But then you just change the size of everything. Do you need to
Yeah.
change the size or
We
do
do.
you dynamic
Screen.
Yeah,
Oh
just
yeah,
fit
of
into our
course.
view.
Yeah.
That's the one. Screen.
So if we hide the title, we don't need a legend. Yeah, that's you. And then we've got the logo there, and we can repeat that.
You can also make that super transparent. Some format.
New.
Oh,
I didn't know you could do that with InHello.
And then worksheet now.
Ah.
Which means now if you want to like have that as close as possible to your chart.
Oh, no.
Oh shit, that didn't work. Oh, it's floating order. Because it's
Then
everything's
centre back, like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
It does work. No problem.
Maybe explain.
Oh, it's actually the
Centre
PNG.
back.
You've frozen as well, by the way.
Oh,
So-
screen.
Oh,
That's
it's
fine.
fine. It's fine. Ignore me.
Okay, and another thing, a useful thing is if you have to put footers, which people like when they're printing things, then you make that a sheet as well, so that the information updated, not having to paste it across several pages. You can type it in, or it can be based on fields which people have selected. It could have a date come up in there. Things like that. Useful to.
Final question. What's your favourite dashboard ever? privacy.
Ooh. We know what yours is. You want to
Ask if you want lower detail calculation.
Yeah, it's like one of three. Right? No, but dashboards, obviously, you have ones that you really like because they look good, right?
Yeah.
But I just wondering if you have one. Team support is alright.
Okay, so we're gonna end it there, and the next the next lesson today will be designing for mobile at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Well, it's great timing to join it.